In 1968, archaeologists in Iraqi Kurdistan opened a cave. Inside, they found a skeleton, not remarkable by itself. But this skeleton had been buried with something, not weapons, not food, not tools. Something that had no survival purpose whatsoever. Flowers. Whoever this Neanderthal was, a species we'd written off as brutish, primitive, barely conscious. Someone had laid them down with care. Someone had grieved. And the question nobody thought to ask is this: if they could grieve, what did they do when the grief wouldn't stop? There is a story we tell ourselves about depression, that it's a modern disease, a product of screens and stress and 24-hour news cycles, that it belongs to us, to the anxious, overstimulated, disconnected world we've built. And there's something almost comforting in that idea. Because if depression is a product of civilization, maybe civilization can fix it. But the evidence says otherwise. 3,000 years ago, a Babylonian physician carved this into a clay tablet. He is worried. He is depressed. His heart is not up to speaking. That's not a modern complaint in ancient handwriting. That is the same thing. The same ache, the same withdrawal, the same silence. Around 400 BCE, Hippocrates named it melancholia. From the Greek melas, black, and chole, bile. He described fears and despondencies if they last a long time, a distinct, recurring condition of the human mind. Depression is not new. Your ancestors felt it. The question is, what did they do about it? And the answer is stranger and more useful than anything you'd expect. For roughly 300,000 years, modern humans lived as hunter-gatherers, small groups, 15 to 50 people, moving across landscapes, sleeping under stars and in caves. No jobs, no clocks, no isolation. The brain you are using right now was built for that world, not this one. And when researchers began studying what depression actually looked like in that world, what it was for, how it was handled, they found something nobody expected. They found that ancient humans had something that worked. Not pills, not therapy, something older, and in some ways more powerful. But before we get there, we need to ask a harder question first. Why did depression exist at all? Here's where the science gets uncomfortable. In 2009, psychologists Paul Andrews and J. Anderson Thompson published a paper that proposed something radical. Depression wasn't a malfunction, it was a feature. Their theory, called the Analytical Rumination Hypothesis, argued that low mood evolved to force focused, distraction-free thinking onto exactly the kind of problem that needs it most. A death, a broken relationship, a change in social standing. The kind of complex social problem that doesn't have an easy answer. The kind that needed sustained, uninterrupted analysis. Depression, in this view, was your brain locking the door and refusing to let you leave until you'd worked through it. And there's another theory, even darker. In 2003, psychologists Allen and Badcock proposed what they called the social risk hypothesis. In a world where survival depended entirely on your tribe, on being needed, valued, chosen, falling out of social standing wasn't just embarrassing, it was a death sentence. Their argument, low mood evolved as a signal, a warning system that said, your position in the group is at risk. Stop competing. Withdraw, stop taking chances. Signal that you need help. Wait. Depression, in this model, wasn't weakness. It was your brain calculating the social odds and protecting you from a fatal mistake. And then there's a third theory, the strangest one. In 2013, Charles Raisin and Andrew Miller published a paper in Molecular Psychiatry laying out what they called the Pathos D hypothesis. Depression, they argued, may be built from the same biological machinery as the immune response. Think about that. A fever isn't a malfunction. A fever is your body deliberately making itself inhospitable to infection. Their argument, ancestrally, social stress, being wounded, being ostracized, predicted infection risk. So the genes that respond to social pain and the genes that fight infection became linked. Withdrawal, fatigue, loss of appetite, social avoidance. Every symptom that looks like a failure was, in an ancient world of open wounds and close quarters, a form of protection. These three theories don't fully agree, but they agree on one thing. Whatever depression is, it's old, very old. And it was there for a reason. Now here's where it gets more complicated, because here's what none of those theories explain. If low mood evolved as a temporary signal, a problem-solving mode, a protective withdrawal, then why does it sometimes never lift? Why do some people spiral for months, years, decades? The answer most evolutionary researchers now accept is this. Ancient depression and modern depression are not the same thing. One was a short circuit. The other is a system running on the wrong fuel, in the wrong environment, for far too long. Researchers call it evolutionary mismatch. Your brain was built for a world that no longer exists, and when it sends the signal to withdraw, to slow down, to stop competing, to seek the tribe, and the tribe isn't there, the signal just keeps firing. And here's the part almost nobody talks about. Ancient humans didn't just survive depression. They had built, without knowing it, an entire way of living that treated it. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiesner published a study in the journal PNAS. She had spent decades living with the Zhuhoansi, a group of hunter-gatherers in the Kalahari Desert, whose way of life still echoes the deep past. And she documented something remarkable about what happened around the fire at night. During the day, talk was practical, complaints, gossip, economics. But at night, by the fire, something shifted. The stories came out. Stories of distant places, of people long dead, of spirits and journeys, and what it means to be human. Wiesner found that nighttime talk was overwhelmingly devoted to storytelling, to imagination, to myth, to the sharing of experience. She called it the original social media. And here is the critical detail. That firelight story circle was also where suffering went public. Not to be fixed, not to be solved, to be witnessed. In small-scale societies across history, emotional suffering was never treated as a private matter. It was brought into the open, mourned together, ritualized. The community didn't offer solutions, they offered presence and movement, always movement. The Hadza, a group of hunter-gatherers in Tanzania, averaged roughly 135 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity every single day. That is more than 14 times the activity of the average American adult. They weren't exercising, they were just living. And in 2024, a network meta-analysis published in the British Medical Journal, analysing 218 studies and over 14,000 patients, found that walking or jogging works about as well as antidepressants for reducing symptoms of depression. What Hippocrates prescribed in 400 BCE, what hunter-gatherers lived by for 300,000 years. Modern science just confirmed it. And the sunlight, for almost all of human history, your ancestors spent most of their waking hours outside. Natural light, thousands of lux of it. Multiple meta-analyses now confirm that bright light therapy, even in people without seasonal depression, significantly reduces depressive symptoms. Not because it's magical, because it's what the brain expects. And sleep. Before artificial light, humans slept in two phases. A first sleep, then a period of calm wakefulness in the darkness, sometimes used for prayer, conversation, reflection, then a second sleep. Historian Roger Kirch documented this across centuries of pre-industrial records. Researcher Thomas Wehr reproduced it in a lab in 1992. Given long winter nights, subjects naturally fell back into this biphasic rhythm within weeks. That midnight quiet wasn't insomnia. It was built into the design. Now look at what we've lost. At Sungir, Russia, 30,000 years ago, archaeologists found a burial so extraordinary it stopped the field cold. A man buried with over 3,000 mammoth ivory beads sewn into his clothing. 2 children buried head to head, surrounded by more than 13,000 beads in total. Researchers estimate the beadwork alone represented approximately 10,000 hours of labor. 10,000 hours for the dead. Your ancestors didn't just survive grief. They stopped everything to honor it. They made it visible, they made it costly, they made it matter. And somewhere between then and now, somewhere between the campfire circle and the solo apartment, between the communal mourning and the private scroll through a phone at 2 a.m., we lost the ritual. We kept the capacity for suffering. We just removed almost everything that was built to process it. Here's what this means for you. When you feel low, genuinely low, the kind that doesn't lift, your brain is running a program 300,000 years old. It's sending a signal: withdraw, slow down, seek the group, be witnessed. And modern life gives it almost nothing to work with. No fire circle, no communal ritual, no all-day movement through open air. No story that makes the suffering mean something. Just isolation, artificial light, sedentary hours, screens. The signal keeps firing, because the answer it was built to receive never comes. The cave at Shanidar, where those flowers were laid, is still debated. Some researchers now think the pollen came from bees, not human hands. Maybe it was never flowers, but someone still buried the body with care. Someone carried it down into that cave, someone arranged the bones. The grief was real either way. Ancient humans didn't conquer their darkness. They walked into it, together by firelight with a story, with their hands and their feet and their bodies moving through the world. They made the suffering visible. And for 300,000 years, that was enough to carry them through. Maybe the problem isn't that we feel too much. Maybe the problem is that we're trying to feel it alone.